everyone. Sorry for the delay a little bit. We had some technical issues, but now we're here. Welcome, everyone. My name is Anna, and I'm the youth coordinator at the Global Landscapes Forum. I'm here with my colleague Irini, who's working with me in the youth team. On behalf of the Youth Landscapes Initiative and the Global Landscapes Forum, we are sending out a huge welcome to you all. The Youth Landscapes Initiative is teaming up with the Global Landscapes Forum now to create youth-led episodes of the GLF Live. Some of you might have seen already in previous episodes of GLF Lives, and now we've really teamed up with the GLF and the Youth Landscapes Initiative to really share with the world the wonderful projects, initiatives, and dreams that young people are having all around the world. If you want to keep in touch with us, you can also subscribe to the Youth Landscapes Initiative newsletter.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you everyone for tuning in for this episode of GLF Live. Today we are exploring art and sustainability. And as we all know, art in all its forms is a fundamental expression of all humans and all cultures, and one of the strongest tools we have to communicate with each other and with nature. And today we are exploring the relationship between art and sustainability, and especially between filmmaking and sustainability. And we have with us Guille Isa, who is the one half of the creative duo behind the short film Dulce, that was an official selection of the 2019 Sundance Festival and 2018 Toronto International Festival.
Yeah, and interviewing Guille, we are happy to have with us Donatella Gasparro, who is a writer, an agroecologist, a poet, and a lecturer, and herself has found a way to really transform words into poetry and reach the heart of many people about the importance of taking care of the earth. So I will now share with you, before giving the floor to Donatella and Guille, I will share with you the trailer of Dulce, that is the documentary we're gonna talk about today. Perfect. And Donatella and Guille, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Anna and Irini, for the introduction. And I hope you all enjoy the very short sneak peek into the beautiful documentary Dulce. Hello, Guille. Welcome here.
Hello.
With this first GLF Live led by the Youth in Landscapes Initiative. Before we dive into the documentary and a lot of interesting topics, it would be great to know a little bit more about you, Guille, our guest of the day. So it would be great if you could tell us a little bit how you actually got into filmmaking, what brought you there, what's a little bit your story?
Well, everything started because I have a family of artists. You know, my father is a painter. And so he got me into different aspects of art. And at the beginning, I wanted to be an animator. I wanted to do animation. And I studied like a few months of animation. And when I realized that I had to spend my whole life sitting in the computer, I said, no, this is not for me. I like to be outside, you know. I like to meet people, talk to people. So then my father said, why don't you do filmmaking? And I'm like, oh. So it became real, no? For me, filmmaking was like some sort of astronaut kind of dream. And when he said it, I was like, okay, I guess I can do this. And then I got into filmmaking.
Amazing. I totally understand the standing behind the computer part. And I need to have this conversation live, like in real life, likely this is what we can do. But we actually connect from the other side of the world, so that's great. So you got into filmmaking, but you also got into a very specific type of filmmaking because you make mostly documentaries and a specific type of documentaries in specific settings. Can you tell us a little bit how you got there?
Yes, and I think that was the moment where I fell in love with filmmaking, no, by making documentaries. Um, because in fiction, everything is in your mind, no? Everything happens through your mind and you're creating a world. But in documentary, you are present, you are there, you're listening, you're looking, and you're trying to tell somebody else's story. So for me, being such a mental person, it was like the perfect escape, of your mind. I just listening and I was looking. So that was beautiful. Everything was building in the moment. And everything changed. Like one day is one thing, the other day is another story, and when you're editing, it's another story. So everything changes, and you have to adapt to that. You have to be prepared, for that. You cannot get stuck with an idea, And I guess that's how life is in a way, no? Or an adventure.
Absolutely. I also imagine that making this kind of documentary also brings you a lot around the world.
Yes, which is one of the funniest and greatest part of filmmaking, because you get to go to places that it comes to my mind like places I've been that I never knew existed, people that I would have never met if it wasn't for films, So having that, being such a curious kid and getting to know a lot of people, traveling around the world, that was like, this is for me, definitely.
It sounds like a lot of people in the audience may suddenly realize that filmmaking is what they want to do now. We could speak about this for a lot, I think, but maybe it's nice to dive a little bit deeper into Dulce, your latest work. We watched the short trailer. Could you maybe tell us a bit of the background of this project? What's the idea behind it? What brought you to actually film it?
Yes, well, Dulce was an initiative of Conservation International, along with Jungles in Paris, which is a documentary production company in New York, and I'm part of them. And Lee Pace, which is an actor who was part of the conservational and part of the mangrove program. So they wanted to raise awareness about the protection of mangroves in Colombia. And they wanted to reach a bigger audience also with this message, And so we thought that a story could do that, So they haven't done that before, They usually do like institutional kind of films, not like a short film or like a documentary film. But they trusted a lot in us, They say, okay, go do whatever you want, as long as it's related to the mangroves and the woman harvesting shells. And we were like, okay. No, we went there and we spent some days like casting, meeting people, trying to understand what was going on, what was the best story to tell. And then one day I found Dulce on the dock and she was looking at me like saying, who are you? Like, what are you doing here? And I look at her, I'm like, oh my God, like this little girl has something, And I immediately started asking about her, and then she walked me around, and I'm like, no, this is a great character. Yeah.
That sounds like the perfect introduction to actually my next question, because you spent time, I imagine, to film this documentary in this village in Colombia in the mangrove forest. So I imagine there's quite some anecdotes and stories behind the scenes, so behind the camera. Could you maybe tell us a couple of those that really, you bring with you in your heart?
Yeah. To put you in context, this is a place that we had to take 2 planes and like 2 boat rides of hours. This was in the middle of nowhere, basically. And there were like little islands where the communities were, And one of the most beautiful things that ever happened to me in my life happened to me there. You know, I don't know if you have seen in the trailer or in the film. There's the house of Dulce. It's right next to the shore, right? And I was living with them. You know, I was staying at her house. And the first night, I was sleeping, you know, and it was like 3 a.m. in the morning or something. And then I start feeling the ocean below me, you know. And I was like, what? What am I dreaming, you know? And then I woke up and I'm like, oh no, the tide is coming, you know? And I could felt the whole ocean below me. And that feeling was like, oh my God. Like if you ever had a chance, please you have to experience that, because it was the whole power of the ocean below. And I was like, wow, like, do you get this every day? And she was like, yeah, from time to time. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, maybe for those who haven't noticed in the trailer, or haven't watched the documentary yet, you should definitely do that as soon as this talk finishes. So the house, right, it's a wooden house still composed, so that when the tide is high, it can just flow underneath. Beautiful. Yeah. This is a very beautiful image. Maybe just going a bit into the content of the movie. So in Dulce, and also as in other of your works, actually, you really show how natural ecosystems and their balance are so strongly interlinked with the livelihoods of communities who live there, which really brings together two very important sides of sustainability that are not necessarily always linked, which are the environmental sustainability and the social sustainability. How do you think filmmaking in general, and also art, can convey these complex messages? How do you think you can both inform and inspire people to make steps towards improvement, towards sustainable future with your art?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it comes to two things: information and sensitize. Do you say that? Sensitize?
I think we got it.
Yeah, because I like filmmaking or art is a window. You know, especially documentary filmmaking, it's a window. It opens up like places that you, or people or cultures that you don't get to know, and it creates like a bridge. You know, we are like a bridge between a culture and an audience, about a story and an audience, you know. So for us is to best tell their stories, and so the audience can relate to them, you know. And by knowing their reality, by knowing the way they believe, you know, the belief system, how they behave, how they treat nature, how they relate to nature, and maybe you can understand that there are some different ways to engage, you know, different ways to live, different ways to do things, you know. Like for me, growing up as a Japanese and Peruvian boy, it was really tough, you know, because you have these two cultures that are completely opposite, you know, and you got to a point where you say, who is right, you know, because they're saying the opposite thing. But I love my mom and I love my dad, you know, so I want them both to be right, you know. You finally understand that they are both right, you know, that nobody is wrong. And if we can make that, you know, if we can just get you closer to a culture or to a belief system, then you may understand, and then you can respect, you know. And I think it comes down to respect.
That's very beautiful. Thank you for sharing this thought. A little bit along those lines as well. So you film different documentaries in different contexts with different people about different parts of their lives. A question that I have for you is, what makes you think this needs to be filmed? This needs to be shown to other people? What is it that makes you decide this? I'm going to make a documentary about it.
Yes, I mean, first is who do I want to spend time with? You know, this is my life. I have to really want to spend time with these people, because it's a lot of time. you know. So that's, I think, one of the first reasons. Then the other reason, to me, like I told you, I come with this background of these two cultures of people saying this is right and this is wrong and stuff like that. And as you get to know more people, more cultures, and more belief system, like I guess like that's where I started like having peace. I don't know how to say this, having peace. And to me, is that, to me, it's like, okay, let's get into a belief system and let's explore it from a Western perspective, because it's really hard to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what's there. For example, I tell you one story. The first time I met a shaman in the Amazon, this he was like a 70-year-old man, never wore shoes, and he was like walking with me in the forest, and then he told me that he can communicate with plants, and I was like, wait, what? He was like, yeah, like talking, like you and me. And I'm like, but what are you saying? Like, how, like, you communicate with plants? And then he looked at me, and this is the moment where I believe him. He looked at me with this face of like he couldn't understand that for me that was not possible. It's like if I'm telling you, hey, like, how do you cook eggs? Well, you put in a pan and that, and you're like, really? I'm like, you don't know that? And that face to me was like, okay, there's something here, right? Why is he saying that? And then we went into exploring that, and it was the most beautiful journey I ever had, because we can actually communicate with plants, believe it or not.
I do believe it.
Yes, I know we all here believe it. Now we have to introduce it to people who are hesitant.
Yes. So that's also part of your job, I imagine, making
Yes.
people believe we can actually communicate with plants. Going a little bit more on the technical side, you said you have to spend a lot of time with people. So how does it practically work? How much time do you spend with a community when you shoot a 10-minute video, for instance? Actually, your documentaries are pretty short.
Yeah.
I imagine it takes a lot of time.
No, yes. I mean, that depends on the story, the type of story, and how everything it's evolving. Now, for Dulce, it was super fast, super easy. We shot with her in 3 days because everything unfolds in a magical way. Like amazing. Whatever we asked for, the universe would provide. And I was like, okay, thank you. And there are more other films that you have to struggle a little bit, you have to push a little bit, but you have to also understand when enough is enough, no? When you don't have to push anymore, no? When it's like, okay, we don't have to do this, this is not for us. We don't have to tell this story. And you have to say, okay, this is not for me, and go.
I totally understand. Do you have, what are you working on now? What's the next step, next film? Do you have some projects you'd like to share with us?
Yes, we are developing 2 projects. One, it's completely shot. We're going into the editing now. And it was a project that came up while everybody in lockdown or quarantine for some, And we felt the need that we needed to document this moment, from a human perspective. Not from statistics, not from numbers, but from a human perspective. And we realized that for most of the people and most of the stories, what COVID did in a way was open up curtains, Everybody could see their lives and question and say, is this what I want? Is this what I want to live? Is this what I want to do? And that was so powerful that everybody had that story. And we filmed 11 countries. We were 11 filmmakers. Everybody was telling one story. And it is super moving and super beautiful. And we're so happy that we made that decision, taking all the risk and everything, but we had to do it,
So when it's coming out, how do we find it?
We're still on that process. You know,
Right.
we're talking to people, and all
Okay.
these kind of
Okay.
things.
All
But
right. I
hopefully
really
soon.
look forward
Hopefully
to
by
it.
the end of the year.
Amazing. Okay. And hopefully we won't be in lockdown again by the end of the year.
Oh
Anyways,
yes, please no.
you were saying also there's another project you're working on.
Yes, and the other is about, I guess, the relationship of the cultures. I mean, we have always been people of energy. Energy is around us, and we have relate to it in different ways. You know, and like the story I told you, of the shaman in the Amazon. So this project basically explores how all the cultures in the world um, are saying the same things, but are getting there in different ways. You know, it's like a scientist. Like I hear to scientists and I hear to shamans, and I say these guys are saying the same thing, but in different words. You know, and I find that really interesting, and I want to convey a place where we can put them all together, scientists and shamans, and they can share and they can talk and they can exchange ideas, you know? So this is a project we really love, and we hope we can start soon.
Amazing. I mean, it sounds like I'm saying it because of the circumstances, but I'm very much looking forward to this one as well. I've been in the academic world, a little bit of an artist and a poet, so I also find myself all the time mixing this part. So I really
Yeah.
hope it happens soon. Before, I think we can have maybe a couple of questions from the audience. I'm gonna see what we have. Okay, so we have this question. Could you share with us in which ways the participants' vision about preserving ecosystems has changed? Would you say, as they watch the documentary, their self-perception in the landscapes has changed?
Sorry, I didn't get it. I didn't.
So there's two parts of the question. First one asks basically, in which ways the participants of the project in Dulce, their vision about preserving ecosystems changed? Maybe we stop at this one for now.
Like us?
I think they mean the community, actually.
The community. Ooh, this is a long conversation. This is a long
You
conversation.
got a little bit of insights.
But I guess they. It's really hard. It's a complex thing because they want to protect the nature. They live there. They feel it. They are on a daily basis engaging and relating to nature. But at the same time, the situation they're in makes them harm it, destroy it in a way. I don't know if that's like sounds reasonable, but it's out of need that most of people do these kind of things. But they understand and they are working towards a better future, you know. But my outcome in that is like we as the citizens of the world and we who lives in big cities, we are the one who demands all these things, you know. So we have to be really conscious about what we want and where it comes from and all of that, no?
Yeah,
Because ultimately they are the ones who pay the price.
yeah. Again, it's as most conclusions of most conversations around sustainability ends up at the interconnection among so many things.
Totally.
It's not easy. It's very difficult to put all the dots together and solve these things we have systematically.
We're all together. We're all together in this.
Yes. And that's maybe the first step that we need to do. We just won. That's
Yes.
first mental shift that we need to kind of get acquainted with. Let's
Yeah,
see if
totally.
another question. So also the same question, continuation from before. Would you say that the community, after watching the documentary, changed their self-perception in their own landscape? Is
Um,
it not? That now you'll tell me.
no, I mean, it's funny because they don't have much access to films, and especially like to see themselves, you know. So it was kind of an interesting moment when they watched the film and they recognized the screen, and they were like super embarrassed. But at the same time, by looking at yourself on a screen, you become more aware of what you're doing. You know, it's like right now you say, okay, Guille, now you're gonna look what Guille does. You know, and when I look what Guille does, then I'm like, okay, Guille, maybe you're doing some things that you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
So that's I think that's what happened. No, like looking at yourself, it's something really powerful. It makes you aware.
We have another question. With your documentaries, are you looking to show the way you see the world and try to people connect with you in your own way? In other words, do you think you show the images from your point of view or a neutral point of view?
I try to be as objective as possible, but it is such a difficult task. You know, I really, 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 because this is something that documentary has taught me. No, it is not the film that I want; it's the film what it wants to be. You know, and sometimes I go with an idea and I start asking and exploring and pushing that idea, and the character doesn't want to talk about it. You know, and then I'm like, wait, like we spent 2 or 3 hours talking. Like, what did I record? You know, and then I go back to what I record and I look at it, and the person was trying to explain me another thing, which is amazing and beautiful, but I was not looking at it because I had in my mind my idea. No, so this is an exercise that I try to do every day, you know, and try to really listen, you know, because it's really hard for us to listen. I don't know why, you know. It's so hard. But it's a beautiful exercise, and when you do it, then what I try to put, it's to bring the emotion of what he feels or what I felt in that moment. So I guess it is a combination of both of us. No?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much also to the audience for the beautiful questions. I think we can wrap up with one question. Do you have maybe some advice for young filmmakers who are approaching filmmaking for, moving the audience and making the audience aware of sustainability topics? What would you tell them if they're starting right now?
If they're starting right now, well, listen, this is a key part of documentary, no, of life, basically, at the end of the day. Listening is very important, very, very, very important. And the other is to be there, you know, because sometimes we get caught into the technical details, we get caught into getting everything we want, you know, and we want to do it in our own rhythm, you know, but then you are going to a place that has its own rhythm, a person who has another rhythm, and you have to serve those rhythms, you know. You cannot impose every time the way you want it, you know, how fast you want it, how. So be patient, listen, engage, and feel a lot.
Thank you so much. We don't have a lot of time. It was half hour that we had for today, but I'm very inspired and I'm very happy. I was here talking with you initially. So I really hope that the audience enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And thank you again for this. It was very inspiring. And because before we close off, I was asked to bring a little bit of my art as well to this conversation and to this GLF Live. So I'm going to share with you a little poem that I thought was pretty much on topic. And this poem is called Naked Came to this Bundle of Lips. Before I close off with that, I want to thank you again, of course, Global Landscapes Forum, Irini and Anna for organizing and being the directors of the whole thing, the audience for their attention and their questions, and of course, Guille again for being with us today. It was a blast. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for having me.
So, naked I came to this bundle of leaves, my mom cleaning my kills. I had nothing but her and the green. I couldn't see the bark of our trees, nor the roots, nor the ground brewing my feet. I didn't know of all other birds, and the fox nor the water where we landed the flock. Naked I came to this bundle of leaves, and naked I stayed, spreading my wings. When I saw that my tree was just one among many trees, this an origin I see to this house. A mother, it's bigger than mine. It's down, it's the earth, it's the ground. I scan it and learn it with all of my flights. I can map it with my eyes. I can own it. Everything is in my sight. I speak beach, I speak oak. I know where's the fruit that is ripe. Naked I came to this forest of leaves with one purpose, to sing. This house is a theater conductor of the wind. I've never known anything else than this. Nobody taught me this could stop this. Nobody said I could lose it. My bundle of leaves. Nobody taught me maize. Nobody taught me soy. Nobody taught me gray, and nobody taught me noise. Nobody taught me my house could fall. My house could burn. My house could stop. My tree was huge and now it's small. My tree was small and now it's wall, wheel, wane, home. Nobody knows beach, and nobody speaks oak. Nothing the earth brews. The mother is choked. Where did you all bring the fruits? Where did you all hide the strings? Conductor left. The audience is deaf. I've never known anything else than this. Thank you.
Woo! Oh my God, I'm crying. Woo.